second GDG Jam happening this year. I will be your host Adi, and this is Noah, and we'll be guiding you through this amazing event that we host pretty much once a semester, and hope that you guys all participate in. So, this was a pretty nice game that these guys made. Coming up is also Tangy Twister, made by Noah.
I made this last year. It's basically a game about a fruit, and you got to get it to its home in the blender. It's kind of morbid now that I think about it. You basically just like make these cubes move around so that I can actually get down there, and I was pretty proud of it at the time. I like the art for it.
So what's like one good thing and one bad thing about making the game?
One great thing, and I'm probably biased when I say this, the game loop is absolutely 10 out of 10. Amazing, even though it's simplistic. And one bad thing about this is the programming involved was very suboptimal, to say the least. And that's all I'll say actually about that.
Well, I mean, how would you have improved the programming for the game?
It was very hard coded. There was like 200 lines of code that I probably could have spent like 5 lines doing. So, first year comp sci person moment.
Yeah, I mean, in a game jam, especially if you are a beginner coder, you are going to do a lot of things that you'll kind of look back on and be like, oh god, I could have done a much better job with that. But you know, we're here to learn and make a better game every year or every semester. And then this is my game, Snong, with the prompt Classic with a Twist. So I thought, let's fuse together 2 classic games, Pong and Snake, to make Snong. I think one really fun thing about this game is that the gameplay loop is pretty simple but pretty effective. I mean, you just move around as a snake and you try to like bounce around a pong ball, and every time the pong ball hits you, you lose one part of yourself. And as you keep on losing bits of yourself and get closer to the goal of becoming as small as possible, you also get much faster and the ball kind of speeds up, so it becomes more and more hectic as time goes on. One issue I had with making this game, besides not spending enough time on making the art look good, which is why I have like a nice little shader that I just found online to just kind of mask up all the imperfections, is the fact that my team didn't really communicate as well as they could have. We didn't exactly spend much time like thinking about the roles that we could entertain in the game. Like I was meant to be the artist, but then I ended up doing a bit of the coding. This was made in Godot, so it wasn't too bad. But our other coder and me were like the only 2 out of the 5 people working on this that actually did anything. So yeah, you know, in a game jam, you want to make sure that everyone is doing their part and trying to like make a game look and play as nicely as possible. So yeah. So, when it comes to making a game, there's a few steps that kind of go into it. I mean, it's a much more complicated process than this, but the basic framework is what?
First point, obviously, you form a team, brainstorm an idea, then you have to plan all the resources that you want. That includes the engine, the programming, like IDs, maybe, or languages you want to use, all the different art programs you might want to use. Make a basic prototype. So a lot of people do this thing where they think of an idea and then they really try to flesh it out and they spend a lot of time doing it, and then it's like, oh, I don't like this part of the game. So that is basically just make something super simple, make sure you like it, and then expand upon it later.
For example, when Mario was initially being created, they literally just had a fucking box that was just jumping up and down, and that was just Mario back then. And then as they sort of continued producing the game, they added like proper art, they added level design, they added like enemies and stuff. But I mean, a prototype is literally just making sure that your core mechanics work out well.
And that kind of leads on to like the next 2 points. You know, once you got all that base functionality and funness down, then you can actually iron out the flaws, make it really fun to play, put all the art assets together and make it look nice, and there you have your game. And also at the end, don't forget testing.
Lots of playtesting is very important for making sure that your game is playable by the audience. Otherwise, you'll make a game that's super easy for you because you spend so much time doing it, and then you realize that no one else can finish the game, let alone play it.
Yeah, if it works on your machine but it doesn't on everybody else's machine, that's a you problem, let's just say.
Yeah. And then of course, at the end of it, you submit and you get to play your finished game with everyone else. Yeah. And then, yeah, for our game jam, we encourage that you form teams. So obviously, you want to get a mixture of skill sets. In a game, there can be a lot of components that go into it, right? You have art, you have coding, you have music, you have good writing. I mean, it depends on the kind of game that you're trying to create, but you want to make sure that your team works to their strengths. So if you have a lot of artists, you might make a game that's more focused on art. If you have a lot of coders, you might make a game that's more focused on good mechanics. But if you want to be psychopathic and go solo, you can. You can try to make a game on your own. It's just very, very hard. We do not recommend it. And this is a nice environment where you get to meet people and you get to like make games with them. So yeah, try to form a team with people. You want to be using a variety of tools and assets to actually make your game. So obviously you have the game engine that you're going to be making a game on. You can use Unreal, Unity, Godot, Game Maker. What else is there? There's a lot of options out there, but these are the main ones that you can kind of interact with.
I would make a quick point about how when you're choosing these tools, you need to kind of keep into mind the other members of your team and what they can run and what they actually have access to. So if you have a group and you want to use Unreal for example, and that doesn't run well on your other team members' devices, then maybe that's not a good choice to use. So keep that in mind. I can say this from a programmer's perspective. Your main engine choices are Unreal, Godot, Unity, basically. Unity is probably the most popular one. In terms of actual programming tools, VS Code is great for writing code. Ryder has a free student license, that one right there. I think it's very nice. It's made by JetBrains. It's a very cool IDE for Unity and Unreal development.
If you're poor as hell, you can just use Notepad++, but I mean, it's kind of mid.
And also, I would make a good point about GitHub. For anyone that doesn't know how source control works, it's very, very, very useful in keeping all your stuff together and not fragmented. So when you come to the end of a project, nothing comes together. So.
And obviously, if you're working in a team, you want to make sure that everyone can access the project, and GitHub is a really great way to do that. There are tutorials online on how to learn how to use GitHub very quickly and easily, and make it so that your game engine is compatible with it. It's pretty easy to set up, and it can save you a lot of hassle. Alternatively, you can just use Google Drive to share a lot of your resources, especially the art and the music and everything else that isn't like code related. Google Drive is useful for that. If you're doing writing, you can just use Google Docs. If you're a writer, you can use Google Docs, or you can even just use Notepad on your fucking phone.
Sublime text.
Yeah. And in terms of art, there's a lot of options that you have. You can use Photoshop, you can use Krita, you can use Paint Tool Side. There's a lot of things that you can play with. Even like Microsoft Paint and Sprite if you're doing pixel art, that's a great option. If you're doing 3D, Maya, Blender, I have forgotten the other ones.
3ds Max?
3ds Max. Yeah, there's a lot of options that you can play with. So yeah, when it comes to tools, there are so many of them. This was intended to go off screen to kind of show that there's a lot of options, but yeah. But obviously not all of us are gonna have teams with everything that we need. So there are going to be teams that probably don't have musicians, that don't have artists. So if that's the case for you, then you can always go to these websites and more. Just look up assets like Open Game Art. You can go to the Unity Asset Store, the Godot one, or is there an Unreal one?
It has a marketplace.
They have a marketplace. You can go to the Unreal Marketplace. You can also go on itch.io, which is where you're going to be hosting your game at the end of the jam. You can also just find assets on there that are both free and very cheap. You can also go on Free Sound and Free Music Archive for finding your sounds and music respectively. And then obviously you can just make it yourself. Yeah. So then, I guess we're going by this pretty quickly. Oh? No. Okay. Alright, we're gonna do theme reveal. So everyone, please drum roll. This semester's theme will be Fable. Alright.
Awesome. Fable.
So Fable is a very obscure word that you might want to play around with. What does Fable mean to you?
Epic battles, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Deception. I use a lot of big words there. Yeah, like story-driven stuff essentially. That's what it means to me anyway.
For me, it also means story-driven stuff, but it can also be inspired by the game Fable. So however you want to interpret this word, this theme, you can do it however you want. Just make sure it kind of fits that theme, you know? And for our club, we also run with a sub-prompt. So this is like an optional theme that you can also play around with and kind of merge into your game. And that will also be, drum roll please, Decrepit. So Decrepit is a much more mysterious word than Fable, right? Kind of just means old, but again, you can Google the definitions of it. You can try to find what it means for yourself. You can also try to find references to it. Again, however you want to interpret this word, play around with it, integrate it, however you'd like, if you want to, because this is optional. So yeah, our 2 themes will be Fable and Decrepit. So next up, we're going to do a bit of a breakout session. First of all, you guys are all going to try and brainstorm an idea. It doesn't have to be an amazing idea, just try to brainstorm some kind of idea. You can do this solo, or you can just chat with others next to you, and try to come up with something interesting. We want to make sure that you guys try to make a game that, isn't too hard to make, but that you don't feel bored while you're making it, And then by the end of this breakout, which is gonna be like 5 to 10 minutes, we're gonna ask you all to raise your hand if you have an idea. This does not mean that you're gonna be making that game, but it just means that you're going to be voicing your idea to us. So you will come with us outside and we'll be discussing it for a little bit. And then you come back in, and if you want, you can present your ideas to everyone else. And that will be how we form teams. So based on these ideas, everyone can now move around and form teams after all that. So until step 5, we're not gonna be forming teams. Not just yet. We're just gonna be making ideas. So yeah, breakout time, guys. Think of an idea. You all have 10 minutes. All right, everyone. So we have 6 volunteers, 6 tributes who are going to present an idea. It might be horrible. It might be great. You will have to judge for yourself and join them as a team if you want to. So first up, we're actually just going to put it like this so that you can edit it and add in your game name and title. So we just want you to put in a temporary title for your game, a temporary game name, and just a very simple description for it if you can type it up. So yeah, what's your game?
So it's gonna be like a card game, a bit like Hearthstone, but then you put the Fable character as your card, and then you just make the player battle around with it, and then yeah, that's the idea. Name.
Okay, you know what? Don't worry about name. Just put in a description, brief description. Yeah.
Card character.
Hearthstone 2.
Card.
Fable card game.
Oh yeah, Fable card game.
Sure, you also will have to type it. Okay, you know what? You guys can all present, and then are you guys cool with typing up your game ideas afterwards? Yes, thank you. Yeah, sweet. All right, what's your game?
So my idea is
Yeah, don't worry.
my idea is
Please come up to the mic.
Oh shit.
Hello? Okay.
Okay, go on.
Very good.
You're good.
My idea is you're like an animal in a forest. It's like a 2D platformer. It will be, I don't know, so it's like a post-apocalyptic world where all the humans have been destroyed by nukes or something. I'll flush it out. But it'll be your little animal, and you need to go and restore the forest. You need to go to a bunch of different areas, maybe simple dungeons with maybe some puzzles or something, and you need to go and clean it and purify the forest from radiation, and to restore it to its former beauty and whatnot.
Sweet. All right, you can start typing up your game. What's your game? Please come up to the mic and tell us about it.
Yep. So my game is going to be story-driven. It's going to be about a kid who's exploring an abandoned underground metro who falls into the spirit world and has to find their way back home to the real world. It's probably going to have some action, combat sequences, as well as some just typical RPG dialogue sequences when you interact with the spirits. That's it.
Sweet. All right. You guys can just line up if you want, and then you come along if you want to present your idea. Speak to the mic.
Alright, so my idea is a choose your own adventure type game where the game is actively lying to you and trying to mislead you, and you've got to try and see through what the game's telling you to try and surmise what the actual reality is.
So I want to do a game about interactive Fable. Then you can get in the Fable. When the character faces some major difficulties, you can choose either help them or against them, and then achieve to.
So my idea is that we're gonna call the game the Lyre of Levant. Levant is a region of historically in Europe, and Lyre is a three or four string guitar. How many strings is it?
I think it's 3 now.
Okay, it's a 3-string guitar, and basically it's gonna be like Guitar Hero, and you're a young man, and there's a spell called the spell of the curse of decrepitism that gets cast upon your entire empire, and basically you have to play the Lyre to defeat all the evil wizards that try making everyone old and like crippled.
Sweet. So these are all the 6 game ideas that we had to play with. It's really helpful, and we encourage that. Just make sure it's not copyrighted. And yeah, work smart, not hard. Use anything that you can't make, and play to your team's strengths. So if you have a lot of coders, make a mechanically heavy game. If you have a lot of artists, make a very artistically heavy game. If you have a lot of storytellers, make something that has a good story. Yeah. Your combined outcomes, your combined abilities determine the outcome. And manage it well. Make a small game. A game jam is not a place for you to start making the next World of Warcraft. It's a place for you to just make a little game like that you can like reasonably finish and be happy with. What happens when you make a really big game, Noah?
Oh, it turns out terrible.
It doesn't turn out terrible, but it just
amazing.
It just turns out that you end up never finishing it, and you kind of just give up because you're overwhelmed by how much you have to do. So make sure that you actually manage what you're trying to make, and you have like a sort of minimum viable product that you can like aim for. So yeah, prioritize your core features and prioritize just making it polished. And mistakes happen. If you fuck up, you're going to fuck up. Don't be ashamed about fucking up, because you will fuck up. I'm sorry for the language, but it's true. Yeah, so jams encourage scrappiness, and there are going to be a lot of shoddy looking games or just shoddy playing games. That's fine. This is a game jam where we encourage you guys to learn and continue to like iterate on these games and to make different games throughout each jam. So yeah, don't worry about like screwing up every now and then. And a few final words, scope small, set deadlines, ensure playability. We want to make sure that you can run it in this club room. If you have not built it by the time the jam ends, you will not be showing off your game. You can try to build it during the game jam showcase night, but you want to make sure you like have it built before then. And also keep an eye on Discord. There are going to be people who could not come to this event. Make sure that you recruit them if you can. You know, there's going to be people who are very keen to join a game jam, but they were too shy to join a team or something. You know, things happen. So yeah, go check out our channel, Teams and Cults, and you can find them there. And lastly, do not use copyrighted material. Last time, I do not want to call out anyone who worked on that game, but we had several games which had copyrighted materials from a certain game company in Sweden. So we want to make sure we don't repeat that issue. So yeah, especially if we're going to be showcasing these games in big events like Overload, like Armageddon, we want to make sure that we are not going to be fucking sued like thousands of dollars, which we don't have because we are a uni club after all. So yeah, make sure you do not use copyrighted material, and make sure you check like the attribution of the resources that you use, and you know, have fun making this, right, Noah?
Yes.
But yeah, this is going to be a tough endeavor to go through. Some of you guys are veterans, some of you guys are very new to this, especially for the people who are new to this. It's going to be hard, but you'll get through it. You'll do well, and by the end of it, you're going to have something that you can enjoy. So yeah. Yeah, so we have a QR code that you guys can all scan and just see and just like upload your team names and ideas and group members into.
And I think
this is just only one person needs to do it, mainly the team lead. This is taking a while to load. Once it loads up, you guys can all scan it and put your teams there. And also, because this is still loading, next week is Foo's writing tutorial. So Foo's going to be doing a tutorial on narrative design and other such things, and there's going to be a little practical component where you get to actually write a story during the session. It's going to be very fun. You guys should all come to it. It is held next week at the same spot, at the same time. Please come to it. It's going to be a good time. All right. Other than that, thank you all for coming. Continue talking, planning with your teams. Good luck.